Okay, so today we're up to chapter 13. We're starting a new chapter. Last chapter 12 introduced the Beinani. The whole book of Tanya is all about the Beinani, which is us. So today we're continuing in the root of the Beinani. Okay, and we're gonna continue and explain different parts. So before we start going right into it, we have the fifth Chabad Rebbe, Maharaj. He once said that you cannot fool anyone. You can't fool Hashem because he knows everything. You can't fool everybody else around you because at some point they'll figure it out. But you can fool yourself. What's so amazing, what's so smart about fooling a fool? And that's really what happens. It's very, very popular that's what we do to ourselves. We tend to fool ourselves. Like when there's no one around, we think that we're going to be smarter, and we end up doing a lot of not such smart things. And we also fool ourselves by thinking that we're on a different level than what we actually are. Okay, so we really need to get to know ourselves on a very real level. That's a little bit of what we're going to start doing today. Like this chapter deals with looking at my weaknesses, looking at who I really truly am, not what people think about you, but who you truly are. Because we'll see what the Beinani is. There's what he's on the outside, and there's what he's on the inside. So we often tend to think that we're better than we are, and sometimes we also think that we're worse than we are. Are we always thinking the truth about who we actually are? Not necessarily. So Chassidut teaches us that a person needs to know himself at a true level, without faking anything and without fooling ourselves. Like it's so I'll show you a source for that. There's a book called Hayom Yom. Hayom Yom is a book that the Rebbe compiled, and he put another saying or another thought for each day of the year in a calendar. And every day we read. Like one of the things that we do by Chitat is we read the Hayom Yom of that day. So this is the Hayom Yom of the 26th of Cheshvan, which is actually coming up. Wait.
It's a thought that we need to think of?
You will see, he's telling us that we can't fool ourselves. Here. So this is the Hayom Yom of 26th of Cheshvan. The true way is to know one's character, truly recognizing one's own deficiencies and one's good qualities. And when one knows his deficiencies, he should correct them with actual avoda, work on himself. Avoda is work, and not satisfy himself merely with bemoaning them. Okay, so that's a little bit of just my introduction. In the next two, one second, I need to. Yeah, in the next two chapters, chapter 13 and 14, we're going to get to know ourselves on a very true level. Chapter 13 is going to be one side of the coin. When we're going to get to know our weaknesses and the drives, like all the impulses that we have that we need to deal with on a regular basis. And chapter 14, we're going to look at the other side of the coin and know what our capabilities are, what we're capable of, and get to know our strength as humans, and the ability that we have to control ourselves in every single situation. That's going to be chapter 14. But right now we have to deal with who we really are on the weakness side, on the weak side, okay? Also, just to recapitulate, the last chapter, chapter 12, dealt with who the Beinani is. We learned that he can control his thoughts, speech, and action. He controls his outside clothing, his garments, remember? It's things that are not part of who he is, it's the garments. So on the outside, he looks like a tzaddik. He behaves perfectly. He thinks perfectly. Like I'm saying, his second thought, there was the first thought and the second thought, but the deeper conscious thought is always good. And his speech and action for sure is always according to Torah. Amazing. Now what we saw was when we spoke last week about thoughts, we spoke about the highest level of a Beinani, where he has thoughts, they are not good, okay, goodbye. But sometimes there's thoughts that are neutral, gray, confusing, okay? Not always it's crystal clear. Should I do this or should I do that? This is from the animal soul, this is from the godly soul. Okay, I'm following the godly soul. Sometimes the godly soul, like the animal soul, dresses up himself. We'll talk today about the Yetzer Hara, how he fools us. He dresses up himself as a tzaddik and he tells us to do good stuff, but really they're bad stuff. So it's the confusing part that we're going to look at today. And it is part of the struggle of the Beinoni. Okay. And what's beautiful about this is that the Alter Rebbe, the author of the Tanya, he's talking to us. He's talking to the Beinoni. He's telling us, I know the struggle you have. I know how crazy the Yetzer Hara is working. And it's in your ability to overcome it. But he's going to tell us how he's going to validate who we are and how hard it is for us. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Yes, it is hard, and then we'll see what we are capable of doing. So this chapter starts off by talking about judges. It's going to say that there's two judges in our body. Okay. And then we're gonna learn how to deal with all the conflicts that are between those two sides, two judges, and how we're gonna make a decision. And we're gonna realize that our brain is like a court, okay? And we're gonna have to recognize who the two judges are, who the two voices are, and when we're gonna see that there's a third judge who's gonna be able to be the one to help rule. Like when you have two judges and both think opposite things, you need a third one to help rule, right? If you have only one judge, amazing. He decides everything and it's all according to him. That's what's happening, by the way, by the tzaddik. There's only one judge over there. There's only a godly soul judge. But by us, there's two judges constantly fighting. So there has to be a third judge, and we'll discover who it is. It's really beautiful. 1 second. Okay. So the class is going to have, as always, is going to have 3 parts, and we're going to read 3 pieces of Tanya. The first part is we're going to talk about the two judges, which will explain to us why we're constantly in confusion mode. We're constantly struggling because there's 2 judges inside of it. Then we're going to discover who's the third judge who's going to be able to tip the scale, sort of. And then we're going to see, it's going to talk to us about how we need to look at ourselves as if we are a Russia. And what does that mean? And why should I think that I'm such a bad person? If you want to grow, you need to think of yourself as good and capable, not as somebody that's terrible. So we'll discuss that as well. Okay, so life is full of dilemmas, full of confusion, full of decision-making. There's a lot of decisions we make constantly. Some are big and important. Who should I marry? Where should I live? What job should I take? And sometimes and every day we have also very small decisions that we all constantly have to make. Should I come to the class tonight or not? Should I go on Zoom? Should I go in person? Should I answer this call or not? How should I react? Where should I go? Should I buy this or should I not buy this? And we're trying all the time also making priorities. I don't have to do this right now. I'll do this later. Okay. So every moment we're making a decision. Every moment has a dilemma. Every moment there's 2 sides and we have to make a choice. It happens to us all the time. And today we're going to learn how to make those choices. We're going to get a lot of tools on how to make those choices. But let me ask you now, what do you think? How do you decide and make a decision?
I think of the end results I want in my life, and I take actions. I make those decisions based on the end results.
Based on the end result, not based on your feeling right now. More based on your goal.
Generally, yeah. I mean, sometimes it will be based on my feeling right now.
Okay. Okay. So it could be based on your feeling, based on your goals. Yes. Impulse, somebody says. It's based on your impulse. That means that you're listening to your heart. Yeah, that could happen. Oh, to think if it's right. Yes. You were here in the first few classes. We discussed a little bit that. Yeah. Anyways, any other ideas? How you make decisions?
If something I really like, I said yes.
If something you really like,
if I see,
if he really talks to you,
yeah. If I see the dress, oh, it's so beautiful, I love it.
And it doesn't matter what price.
Well, price it's measure. If I can afford, let's put this.
Okay, if you can afford it and it's beautiful.
Yeah.
And it fits, of course. Yeah. No, but then there's no dilemma. Then it's not a decision making. Hello. Then it's not a decision making.
It's not.
What choice are you making? What's the other side of the coin? You're choosing between a beautiful dress that's affordable.
it's like.
Between two dresses. Okay, the one that's prettier. Okay.
Sometimes there's that feeling. Yeah.
Sometimes, so what's the gut feeling? What's stopping you from buying the dress?
Like, you know,
Ah, okay.
if you.
Okay, so
You know what, once I was
emotions,
listening
yeah.
to- Yeah, I was listening to one of the classes, probably you were there too. And the guy said, you buying the dress, you're so happy, everything is good, and then you're going to the party, and then one friend said to you.
This
"Why you
dress?
wearing this dress?" And that's it, your whole evening, your whole year, everything is. good.
So what's the point of this?
Sometimes people depends on the other opinion.
Right, sometimes we listen to other people's opinion, which is, okay. So sometimes you want to buy the dress and you're shopping with your friend and your friend will tell you, don't buy this dress. That's
Yeah.
the other side. Very good. But you say, no, I don't care what you say. I know what I like. Or I care what you say and I don't care what I like. But exactly. So there's a lot of sides always to those decisions. So in order to decide, we need to realize that we need to look at the source of each side of the dilemma, of each side. Like each voice is coming from somewhere. Okay, the side that's telling you yes, buy this dress, or yes, eat this, and the side that says no, don't eat this or don't buy this dress. Like, what's the source of the dilemma? Every dilemma that you have, every question that you have, every decision that you have has two sides to it, and we want to behave in a way or in that way for different reasons. Like both are pulling and both have a lot of reasons to go this way, and there's a lot of reasons to go the other way. And the person needs to decide what's more important, what's the most important. Like the question is, what's the source of each voice, and then you consider which voice you want to listen to. Now, there's regular dilemmas in life that are selfish dilemmas, like that are either way it's going to be good for me. For example, like what's best for me, which cell phone company to go with, which bank should I use. Sometimes both sides can be for selfish reasons. This one is closer, this one is cheaper. Like they're both, in the end of the game, for something selfish. Like both sides come from a selfish, like what's better for me, and both sides are good for me. Now the person needs to decide a priority. What's more important for me? For me, it's more important the convenience. For me, it's more important that I can afford it. For me, it's more important that it's pretty. Like each one has different priorities, and based on that, you decide, right? Now, there's dilemmas that are at the source. They're much deeper dilemmas because they're basically problems between the conflict between the two souls. Okay, we have two souls inside of ourselves. There's the godly soul and the animal soul. The godly soul is going to say, what does Hashem want? And the animal soul is going to say, what do I want? Okay, what is good for me? What is good for me, or what is good for Hashem? And sometimes you're going to have a question in front of you, and the two voices, the two underneath sources are going to be exactly those two sides. Sometimes it's going to be very clear, and sometimes it's going to be extremely confusing. And most of the time it's confusing. But let's talk about the first, if it's very, very clear. So it can be very easy to understand where the voice is coming from. Okay, let's say you have something not kosher in front of you. Your selfish side is going to say, I want to eat it. It smells very yummy, and I'm sure it's going to taste very good. And the God side is going to say, no, Torah says you cannot eat it. Okay, that's a basic. Now, sometimes the animal soul can come like sometimes the ego can be hidden behind, like it can be dressed up. The selfish reason can be dressed up as if it's like, imagine you put on him a hat and a beard. Okay, so it means that sometimes one side is going to come and say, oh, you know what? If you wake up later and you don't pray, you'll have more strength to take care of your children. So it sounds like a very nice thing and very, very good, but really, like it's like basically this this guy that dressed up in a rabbi and tells you that's the right thing to do, but really it is the selfish side. So that's when it's going to get very, very tricky. Okay, and so sometimes it can dress up like a rabbi is talking to you, or like Hashem's talking, like the Torah is talking to you, but really it's the ego talking. So it's very important to try and dig deeper and realize where is actually this voice coming from. Is it coming from the dressed up ego, or is it coming from the Torah, or is it coming from plain ego, plain selfish side? And when we know where the voice is coming from, when we identify the voice is coming from my animal soul, the selfish side, or the voice is coming from my godly soul, the godly voice, then we have a key and we know where to find the answer. The key is, I'm going to go to what the right thing to do is. And if you do what the right thing to do is, you're for sure never going to regret your decision. It's always going to be the perfect good decision. There's a story, just to tell you how sometimes you have dilemmas and it's hard to see what the decision is. There was a story of Rabbi Nachman of Chernobyl. He was a rabbi and people were coming to him. And one day there's this very rich man that comes to him and he tells him, and he gives him a donation of 300 rubles. And he says, I'm giving it to you because I know you'll find, you know, the whole community and you'll know who to give it to. So he gave him a big donation of 300 rubles. 5 minutes later, he leaves. 5 minutes later comes another man, a poor man, that needs to marry his daughter. And he tells him, I don't have money. Can you help me? We need to raise money. I have to marry my daughter. I need money. How much money do you need? I need 300 rubles. And the rabbi, the first thought is like, 1 second, I just got 300 rubles here. That was one thing. And then suddenly he has a second thought saying, maybe you should divide this money between a few people so you can help a lot of people. Not necessarily you need to give everything to him. You can give him 100 and then split the 200 between other people, whatever. He had second thoughts. And that was the dilemma. Should I give him everything or should I give to a few people? They're both beautiful. They're both beautiful, beautiful ideas. But for this rabbi, what ended up happening, so he thought deeper. What's happening inside of me? Where is each voice coming from? And where is this doubt coming from? Why am I not giving him everything? Which one is coming from the right side, from the Yetzer Tov, and which one is coming from the Yetzer Hara, from the evil inclination? So the way he was working, he said, 1 second, the first thought to give everything to him, that was my first thought. The second thought was to divide it between a few people. And he decided, by him, the way he worked, I'm not saying that's how everybody needs to work, but by him, the way he worked is that he knows the first thought is the good side. And the second thought is always going to be the Yetzer Hara popping up right away. So, because the Yetzer Hara always tries, as soon as you make a good decision, he comes and bothers you. Like he's very active and he's right there every moment, making sure to bother you with every decision you make. So he realized that the second thought was from the Yetzer Hara. So then he decided to listen to the good, to the right side. And he gave all the money to the person that was marrying his daughter. So just saying, it's not always that, because we learned last week, I need to make a disclaimer. We learned last week that there's the first thought, the second thought, and the second thought is more conscious. So that's not what we're talking about. I'm just saying that's the way he functioned, and that's how he identified this is coming from the the good inclination, and this is coming from the evil inclination. It's out of and from the Yetzer Hara. Anyways, so I want to now look inside the Tanya. Before we go there, I'm just going to tell you what the Tanya is going to tell us right now. When we go inside, first of all, he starts with the words. The next few chapters are all going to start with the words "uveze yuvan," which is an expression to say, now we're going to explain. Now we're going to understand something. Okay, basically, we had a very long introduction. First 11 chapters of Tanya, first 8 chapters at least, were all about explaining the whole map of our soul, right? That we have 10 faculties, we have the intellectual, the emotional, and we have the clothing, okay, all that. And now he's going backwards, like he's going back, and he's going to take some details from everything we described and explain them and expand on them. So he wants to now bring back the tzaddik, the Beinoni, and the Rasha, and expand on them and answer some questions. In the first chapter of Tanya, I don't know if you remember, but the whole chapter started by saying a concept. It said that the Zev V'zeh Shoftan, that's the Beinoni. There's this and this judges, which means there's 2 judges. If there is 2 judges, it means that we're talking about the Beinoni. And he's going back there and he's saying, so he's bringing that point that we brought in chapter number 1, and now he's going to explain it. So he's saying, okay, we have Zev V'zeh is the Yetzer Tov and the Yetzer Hara, the good inclination and the evil inclination. And those are the 2 souls, those are the 2 judges that are inside of the Beinoni. There's two sides constantly pulling inside of him. And now he's also using the term judge, shoftim. He could have called them two kings, but he didn't say two kings, he says two judges, because there's a big difference between a king and a judge. A king rules, a judge gives an opinion, right? Especially if you have three judges, you can't have three rulers. It's or if you have two judges, each one gives an opinion. They don't have the last word. A king rules, whatever he says is deciding. So and this is what's defining exactly the essence of the Beinoni as opposed to the tzaddik and the rasha. Now that you know the difference between a ruler and a judge, we see that in the last chapter we talked about the Beinoni. The Beinoni has a godly soul and an animalistic soul, and they're both have very loud voices. They're both trying to make their voices heard, right? The godly soul and the animalistic soul are really loud and fighting over the body, very, very loud. The Beinoni manages to control himself. He pushes away the animalistic soul only the way he expresses it with his three garments, right? The Beinoni is someone that's on the outside, he's controlling his thought, speech, and action. Okay, so he's managing to win over the animal soul, but only on the outside. That's why we say that he has two judges, because inside he still has a very strong animalistic soul that's very strong emotional push, like there's very strong impulses in his heart. And also, and even those impulses go all the way to the brain and say, I feel like it, I want it. And there's also a godly soul that has a voice. By the tzaddik, is there two judges? No, the tzaddik, there's only one judge, the godly soul. And because there's one judge, he can decide everything he wants. Nobody's fighting him. Nobody's arguing with him. A tzaddik, he has one godly soul, like he has a godly soul and he does whatever he wants. Only the godly soul speaks up. What's happening by the rasha? The wicked? No.
Why not?
No. There, you said two kings?
Yeah,
No, there's no two kings. You can't have two kings.
well, if we look at.
No, so by him, the animal soul is winning. By the rasha, the animal soul actually wins, which means that the animal soul rules. The animal soul became a king. The animal soul rules. The animal soul decides. The animal soul convinces him to do a sin, and he does it. The animal soul has a huge power over there. He's not just a quiet judge or whatever, a judge that has an opinion. He also manages to bring it to action, right?
Yeah, that's why they're kings, not judges. King doesn't give a king can rule.
Yeah, king rules. So he has one king, but not two kings. By the rasha, the godly soul is not a king. He's not a king. The godly soul is not winning at all. So in summary, here is the difference between the tzaddik, the Beinoni, and the rasha. The tzaddik, he only has a godly soul that rules, okay? He only has a godly soul that rules, that judges, whatever you want. The rasha, the animal soul, rules. And by the Beinoni, you have two judges. Okay, that's what he's going to describe here. Okay, so we're starting now chapter 13. I'm going to open it here. You can open it page 54 in the books if you want, or you can just look at the screen. That's fine. The screen works as long as we're all looking in the text. Okay. Okay, so uveze yuvan is the words that I told you that the chapter starts with, accordingly, like according to, now we're going to understand, according to everything we saw until now, or we're bringing back a few concepts. Accordingly, we may understand the comment of our sages that Beinonim are judged by both their good and evil inclination. Okay, it's better in Hebrew. Beinonim ze veze shoftan. Okay, those words are taken from the first chapter of Tanya. Both judge him and dictate his conduct. As scriptural support for this contention, the Talmud cites, so as it is written, he's bringing a source that proves this. He, the Almighty, stands at the right hand of the poor man and save him from them, to save him from them that judge his soul, from the people that judge his soul. The plural, them that judge, indicates the presence of two judges within the person, the evil inclination and the good. Note that our sages didn't say he is ruled by both. the good inclination and the evil. He didn't use the word ruling or king. He used the word judging, right? God forbid. Because where the evil nature gains any rule and dominion, albeit momentarily, over the small city, okay, even if the Yetzer Hara would win, even for one moment, it would be a Rasha, it wouldn't be a Beinoni anymore. See? One is deemed wicked, Rasha at such times, okay? So it can't be a ruling. A ruling means you become a Rasha. It can only be a judge that has an opinion. So we'll have to see soon who's the ruling. Rather, the evil inclination in the Beinoni is no more than, for example, a magistrate or judge who expresses his opinion on a point of law. Yet, in fact, his decision is not necessarily final, for there is another magistrate or judge who disagrees with him, right? He's explaining the whole concept that there's two judges. It then becomes necessary, in order to formulate a binding decision, to arbitrate between the two, and the final verdict will rest with the arbitrator. There's going to have to be a third one who will weigh, who will help him make a decision. Similarly, in the battle between the evil inclination and the good, the evil inclination states his opinion in the left part of the heart. We're all talking about a Beinoni over here. It creates an evil desire in his heart and demands that he act accordingly, thus rendering judgment as to his future conduct. From the heart, the desire ascends to the mind for contemplation. The ascent is automatic. Wherever a desire is awakened in the heart, the brain will contemplate it. From the heart, the desire ascends to the mind, from contemplation. Okay, sorry. Immediately, upon its ascent to the brain, it is challenged by the second judge, the divine soul residing in the brain. So the evil inclination came with the animalistic soul came with an opinion. It goes to the brain. There's another judge there, which extends into the right part of the heart where the good inclination abides. Okay. Yeah, this is it for now. Now we're going to talk about who's this third. Like we understand that we have two judges. That's who the Beinoni, that's all of us. Okay, we're a Beinoni. We have two judges. There's two very strong voices inside of us trying to determine a situation, to make a decision. So according to everything we learned, it sounds very simple to make a decision, because on a simple level, there's two voices inside of us. There's the animal soul voice, the godly soul voice. And okay, if I know which voice it's coming from, I'm going to listen to the godly voice because that's the right thing to do. And I'm not going to regret it. I'm going to like my decision forever. So I'll listen to the godly soul. But in reality, even if we know the sources from the two sides, we don't always make the right decision. This is when the real deliberation begins. Like this is when the real fight happens, right? Because the animalistic soul is very loud. And we're going to see later that he actually gets louder and louder. Like the evil inclination, like this animal soul is very powerful, very, very strong, and has a very loud voice. So we want to listen to the animalistic soul. We want to do what I feel like. We want to do what is comfortable. And do I want to listen to the godly soul? The right thing to do? Not necessarily. So, for example, if I have a question what to do, you ask a rabbi and he tells you it's not allowed, okay? It doesn't mean that a person is actually going to listen to the rabbi. He knows now exactly what's the right thing to do, and he knows exactly what's not the right thing to do, but he's still going to listen to his animalistic soul that's going to say, come on, just one time, just that, it's okay. Very, very tricky, Yetzer Hara. So the godly soul wants to do what Hashem wants, but not do it, but the animal soul is still very loud and wants to do it. So there's still a fight inside of us whether to do it or not to do it, even though we know where it's coming from and even though we know what's the right thing to do. So how does this all work with mind rules over the heart? We learned that when there's a conflict between the animal soul in the heart and the godly soul in the brain rules over the heart. Okay? That's only happening when it's a very clear, crystal clear, easy situation. Like, I will not eat this pizza on Pesach. Okay, it's crystal clear. I can't do this. It's okay. Like, I'll get over it. But sometimes the heart brings a lot of confusion to the brain, like the fight becomes really complicated. And then it's very hard to say that the mind rolls over the heart. Okay, the brain gets very confused because the Yetzer Hara is going to give him a lot of excuses why to listen to him. The Yetzer Hara comes in his very, very tricky ways. I'm going to try to make this person do the sin. The Yetzer Hara is very, very busy. So what's going to determine between the two sides? Okay, like the situation we're talking about in this chapter is when it's very confusing. We're not talking about when it's crystal clear. We're talking about the confusing part. Like, even though I know what's right, even though, or sometimes I'm not so sure what's right, whatever, but even if I know what's right, I'm still confused. I'm still pulled between both sides. There's still a very, very strong pull to each side. It's like very, very, like it's very, very hard to make a decision. And they both have an equal opinion, like they're both very loud. So as we just said in the Tanya, when there's two judges, each one gives an opinion. How do we decide who's going to win? There has to be a third judge to determine. And the Alter Rebbe explains it, that we must have a third judge over here. Like you can't have just one, like it's a big mess. Like, so who's going to be this third judge? So the sages say that Hashem is going to be the third judge, and that Hashem is going to help the person determine what to do. So here's how Hashem is going to do it. Hashem is going to help the person make the decision. Okay, Hashem is going to help the person listen to the godly soul. The more Hashem is present in this person, the more Hashem will help him. Like saying it's also a part of our work. I'll explain to you soon. But the more Hashem is there, Hashem wants to be there, and Hashem, if you let Hashem be inside of you, Hashem will help you listen to the godly soul. Okay, but Hashem is the third judge that's coming into the picture, and the Alter Rebbe is going to say it very clearly. You'll see it soon in the Tanya, that when we have challenges, we have dilemmas, okay, and we want to go according to Hashem's will, Hashem is going to help us listen to His voice, to the godly voice. So, and he explains. Remember, we discussed 2 weeks ago. I don't know if it was 2 weeks ago or more. Okay, I don't know. The whole concept of light over darkness. That the light is powerful just by being present. The light automatically pushes away the darkness. So this strength that Hashem gives us is the strength of light over darkness. It's the strength that, okay, I have wisdom. I know what's the right thing to do. Like it's automatically going to push away the dark. Like that's the type of strength Hashem gives us. So in such a case, like we talk about in this chapter of a person that's extremely confused, mind rules over the heart doesn't really work, because it's very confusing. We're not like in a crystal clear situation that the mind knows and the heart knows, and the mind is going to roll over the heart. It's very, very complicated. So, but in such a situation, we have the advantage of light over darkness, that the light automatically pushes away the darkness just by coming into the picture. And Hashem does that. Hashem helps us. And Hashem comes in the picture just like in the same effect as light over darkness, in the same power as light over darkness. So in simple words, okay, the world around us has a lot of power. Okay, it's pulling us to do what the world wants. Okay, most people run after all these stupidities of the world, after nothingness of the world, like after meaningless stuff in the world. Most people, that's where they go. But the truth and the Torah, the Torah and the meaning of the Torah, when we see the truth, it gives the person strength to overcome all this negative, all this challenges stuff. And the truth of the Torah is like light over darkness. When we see the truth of the Torah, it's going to help us win over the darkness. So Hashem is going to help by showing us the truth, by bringing light over dark, with the power of light over darkness, and help the person make a decision. Now, in order to receive that power of Hashem, that power of light over darkness, okay, we have to make an effort. It doesn't come automatically to a person that's just going to be a whole day in the street and doing whatever. We have to do something. We have to connect to a source of holiness. We have to make an effort, pray more, learn more Torah, learn more Chassidut, like learn more of the Tanya, participate in a Farbrengen of Chassidut. Like the more we hear about it, the more, and when we also by connecting to a tzaddik, listening to a tzaddik, reading books of a tzaddik, okay, like all these kind of things, giving more tzedakah, all these things help us bring this power of Hashem to help us make those decisions, and bring this Hashem as a third judge to help us win. So the more we do all these things, the more we're gonna pray and learn and be attached to the Torah and be attached to Hashem through a tzaddik, whatever it is, the more we go there, the more it's gonna help us making a decision. Okay, we're gonna see soon. I have to say it now. It's like it's burning in my mouth, but even though you're so dwelling in Torah and learning and praying, like, you know, all these rabbis, all these people, all these like religious people, they still have a very strong evil inclination. Don't think that that because you have that third power, like the third judge, it means that your evil inclination is not loud. He's even louder, like he's very loud. Okay, the animal soul is very, very loud by everybody. Okay, doesn't matter, but we have to make an effort at least to try and bring this power into us, so we have a third judge, Hashem, that will help us make the right decisions. Okay. I'm going to tell you now a story, tell you how the power of Hashem, the power of the light of Hashem, it's unbelievable. It's a story in the times of the Romans, I believe. Yeah. And when there was people that were hating, like the Romans were hating the Jews, and they were trying to get into the Beit HaMikdash and take stuff out and make it impure. Story of Hanukkah. I don't know if it's in that time, but probably. And they said, before we go ourselves into the Beit HaMikdash, let's get a Jew to get into the Beit HaMikdash and start getting some stuff out of there. So they found this Jew that sins a lot, that like kind of almost left Judaism, but whatever. But he was a Jew, and they asked him for a favor: go in the Beit HaMikdash and take something from there. Like his name was Yosef Meshita. Okay, it's whatever part of history. His name is in history. This man goes in the Beit HaMikdash on behalf of these Romans. They managed to bribe him or whatever it is, and told him, go and take some gold, some special holy stuff from the Beit HaMikdash and get it to us. And he goes in. I believe it was the second temple, story of Hanukkah. I don't know exactly from which time, but it's from a medrash. Anyway, from those days. And so he comes and he decided, you know what, I'm going to take something very expensive. I'm going to take something very special. I'm going to take the golden menorah out. He goes in, he takes the menorah out, and he brings it to them. And they tell him, 1 second, how did you take the most expensive thing out of the Beit HaMikdash? Like it doesn't fit. Like, how about go back inside and take something else? Like, we don't want to just walk the first thing we were going to walk out with in the streets with the menorah. Like we want something smaller. Like he basically went for the biggest sin. Like this guy was so rebelling, kind of, that he went for the biggest thing. But when they asked him to go back in the Beit HaMikdash, he didn't want to go back. He says, no way, I am not going back. This is terrible what I did. I don't want to go back. And they tried to bribe him and give him a lot of gifts and anything, nothing budged. He's not going back in. Like, but we can't take the menorah, we want to take something else. Please go back in. To the point that they were so upset with him that he didn't go back in, that he regretted it completely, that he went in the first time. He was very upset at himself, but there was no way he's going again. And he goes to the point that they went to a place that has seesaws with carpenters, and they started like literally hurting him. And when he got very, very hurt, he was crying, and it wasn't from pain. It was from regret of his sin. It was like very, very sharp, like the regret that he had and the sin that he did. And now let's try to understand this. He was ready. He had no issue going in the first time and stealing the most expensive thing in the Beit HaMikdash. He had no issue doing that. Now, what happened between then and the second time where he doesn't want to go back in at all? So it says that when he went in the Beit HaMikdash, he had this huge light that went on him from Hashem. He kind of saw Hashem. And after he went in, that holiness of the Beit HaMikdash that went on him went inside of him and lit up inside of him. So it was the godly soul and plus Hashem, those judges became so strong that it was like, it was exactly what we're describing here, that it was this light that lit up his whole godly soul and gave him so much power to go against, at all cost, going back in. So we are able to get this light from Hashem, saying here it's a story, okay, with the Beit HaMikdash, etc. But I'm saying we have to see that there is such a thing of being able to receive a huge light from Hashem, and huge power from Hashem to help us make the right decisions. That's the idea. So let's look at the Tanya telling us about this third judge, or whatever, the third that determines, like the third that helps us make the final decision. And he explains that we need a third judge to determine. And when there's a dilemma that comes in the person's brain, the person needs to have a third one. And it's the power and the strength that Hashem gives him. And it's the same way as the light that wins over darkness. Okay, so look at this. Okay. The final verdict rests with the arbitrator, the Holy One, blessed be He, who comes to the aid of the good inclination, enabling it to prevail over the evil inclination. As our sages say, man's evil inclination gathers strength daily, and if the Almighty did not help his good inclination, he could not overcome it. He would not be able to overcome his evil inclination. To help that God grants him is the glow of divine light that illuminates his divine soul, that it may gain superiority and mastery over the folly of the fool, the evil inclination and dominion, paralleling the superiority of light over darkness, as stated above. Okay? Hope it's clear. So there's a third determinator, it's Hashem, coming with such a light, helping us make a decision, and it comes just like light over darkness. It's special power that Hashem gives us, okay? And it doesn't come by itself. We do need to make an effort, okay? Yes, you have a question?
It just like in general terms of if you're in a situation like that where you're having a problem in deciding and you call out like, Hashem, please help me. I don't know what to do next, and you don't get a third answer. Like that's
okay. So we'll discuss later how to make decisions. We didn't finish all our tools of how to take decisions. Wait till the end of the class. Okay. I know it's very, very not easy. Our body is fighting constantly. As long as right now, all you have to know right now is that you have sources of the two sides. Okay. There's the animal soul speaking loud and the godless soul speaking loud. And how do you make it? They both are only voices. That's also the message that the Alter Rebbe is telling us over here. When the animal soul is telling you do something, it's not what you're meant to do. It's just an opinion. Just you have to look at it as an opinion, not as he told me to do this, so I had no choice. No, it's an opinion, and you have God's opinion. And then you, with Hashem in the picture, because you're saying, Hashem, please help me, then you will listen to your God. Like you want to do what's right. You don't want to do what I feel like. You want to do what's right. That's ideal, but I know it's not always simple, and that's why I give you more tools in the end of just be a little more patient, okay?
yes.
Okay, so we understand that there's a judgment happening now. So you can imagine like a court case in your brain, okay? That's what's happening by the Beinoni. Okay, there's the brain and the heart, and there's a whole court case. Now we're going to go back to the beginning, the first words of the Tanya in chapter number 1 that deal with the oath, like a promise that that is being said to every person when they're born. And I have to remind it to you. So it says that the moment a person is born, we get an oath from above. Okay. And what is the oath saying? I don't know if you remember it, but it's basically saying, Tei tzadik v'al tei rasha, be a tzadik, don't be a rasha. We're going to talk about it in chapter 14, but in chapter 13, we're dealing with the second part of the oath, which is saying, be a tzadik, even if everyone says you're a tzaddik, be in your own eyes like a rasha. Okay, that's what a person is told when, like a moment before he's born. Okay, like the moment before he's entering the world, we're giving him a warning. Even if the whole world is going to ever tell you in your life you're a tzaddik, consider yourself like a rasha. So, okay, let's try to understand this and take a lesson from this. So when we look at ourselves, what's better? Is it better to look at myself as someone good, or is it better to look at myself as someone that's bad? Which one is going to be more efficient?
There's a borderline because you can become haughty.
If you're too good?
If you're too good, yeah, you don't want to become
Yeah.
haughty.
Okay, so we're not very arrogant, but if you think I'm capable of doing this, I can do this, I have capabilities, as opposed to, I can never do this. I'm
Yeah, like a
I'm not able to.
self-esteem
I'm always going to be a
confidence.
Rasha no matter how much I try. Like, like so if yeah, but if you do that, okay. So let's look at both sides. If I tell myself a whole day, I'm able to do this. I want to be a tzaddik. I want to try.
It's motivating.
It's motivating. Exactly. It gives you energy to try.
Mhm.
But if you're telling yourself, I'm forever going to be a Rasha no matter how much I try, I'm not able to become any better, then you give up. It's like, forget it. Like, why would you try? You know, why would you make any efforts? So when we tell you, and like every person before they're born, we're being told that even if millions of people, the entire world says, even if the whole world tells you that you're a tzaddik, in your eyes, you need to be like a Rasha. So this is the worst thing for self-esteem. Like this is not like that. Something's off over here. Like it's basically telling you, no matter what you do, forget it. No matter how many mitzvot you do, you're still gonna be a Rasha.
Oh, it's not what it says.
So what does it say?
It says that there's never any perfection. You always have to try your best, doesn't matter.
Okay, so I hear you, but there's a different message here. Okay, you didn't nail it yet. Okay, you hold on. Hold on. No, you think no, this you'll see. So, anyways, why are we supposed to see ourselves as a Rasha? This was a question we asked in chapter 1. Why are we being told this? Why should we look at ourselves as a Rasha? So the key of the answer is in the word ke Rasha. It doesn't say look at yourself as a Rasha, but look like yourself as if you're like a Rasha, ke Rasha, like a Rasha. It doesn't say look at yourself that you're a Rasha. You should look at yourself that you're as if like you're like a Rasha. You're looking like a Rasha, okay? Like you're something within you is like the Rasha, but you're not a Rasha. So the Alter Rebbe is talking here to the Beinoni, which is us, okay? This whole book and all this is about us, okay? The Beinoni is an in-betweener, okay? We're in between. So the Beinoni, if you think of it, his behavior on the outside, his behavior is the one of a tzaddik. He never sins, no speech are ever saying the bad thing. All his speech is perfect. All his actions are perfect. Even his thoughts, the conscious thoughts are all good. He's not consciously thinking, like the second thoughts are never going to be sinful thoughts. Okay. And, but inside, what's happening? Is he a tzaddik? Is he like perfect? He's like a Rasha. He has a very loud Yetzer Hara. Inside, you have to be very aware. There's a huge Yetzer Hara inside, and there's a huge Yetzer Tov inside, and they're as powerful as by the Rasha. You're not any better than a Rasha inside of you. Okay, we're talking today about getting to know yourself inside, like the true self. The true inside yourself is not what you're showing to the world. You're showing to the world that you're a rabbi or you're religious and you do all that and you do so many mitzvot and you do so much kindness. Okay, those are your actions on the outside. Who are you on the inside? On the inside, you're like a Rasha, because on the inside, beware. There's a Yetzer Hara, a very loud one. There's also a very loud Yetzer Tov. There's a very loud, you have two loud voices, but they're there, just like by the Rasha. Okay, and as powerful as the Rasha is, on the outside, yes, on the outside, he's blocking it, he's not listening to it on the outside. But on the inside, what are the struggles going on in him? So the reason, I'm going to tell you now, because I don't know where I have it. The reason we need to know, it's so important to know this, very, very important to know this, is that we should never let our guard down, okay? Even if we think my life is going perfect, and I'm doing all the mitzvot that I can, I'm the kindest person that I can, I am doing my best anyways, okay? So I'm good. I already learned as much Torah as I can. I pray, I do my Modeh Ani every day, I say my Shema at night, I'm good. No, we constantly have to be on guard. We need to know that there's Yetzer Hara and we need to fight it. We need to add more Torah, add more mitzvot, and constantly, every minute of the day, fight this Yetzer Hara. We need to be aware that there's a Yetzer Hara. Okay. Also, the reason we need to know that there's a Yetzer Hara and that we're like a Rasha, that we're not a tzaddik, that we're like something inside of us is like very loud, that there's a conflict constantly. And every time there's voices, even if you behave on the outside like a tzaddik, even if you're like religious and a rabbi or whatever, even if you're doing everything, still, all the voices inside of you, be very cautious. They can be like this sneaky Yetzer Hara. Don't think that because you're such a good person, the voices inside of you are only good. The voices inside of you are very powerful and very sneaky, and you have an amazing Yetzer Hara working very hard inside of you. That's what it's reminding us before you're born, that for your entire life, you're going to have this fight inside of you. Beware. Don't let go. Be on guard. Like be ready for a constant fight. Like we need to be aware of it. 1 second. Okay, I think I kind of said it. Okay. Now, another thing that the Alter Rebbe tells us here in the Tanya, it's very scary, is that the Yetzer Hara over life, over all the years that we grow and grow older and smarter, the Yetzer Hara also grows. He doesn't get weaker.
Yeah.
Okay, he actually gets stronger.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, on a physical level, do you think that a person grows, like the physical needs that you have, do they grow as you grow older, or do they diminish?
They grow.
They grow. For example, okay, when you're young, you can sleep on the floor in a sleeping bag, on a mattress. The older you grow, the more like you need a comfortable mattress with all the fancy springs. Like you need like a better quality mattress. Also, the way we eat. When you're little, you can eat a sandwich for supper. Like it's okay. But when we grow, no, that's not food. I need quality food. I need a proper supper. I need to have a balanced meal, and I need this. And the more you get into food, the more you need of it. Like the more, all these physical needs, they only grow, right? And the reason it's simple, because the more you feed something, the more it grows. The more you eat, the more you want, like you're creating desires for eating. The more you eat something good, the more you're creating desires to eat something good. Okay. The more you enjoy something, the more you're creating in yourself desires to enjoy those things. The more you travel, the more you want to travel. Like I'm saying, that's the desires only grow. The more you have them, the more they grow. So the more we are in this world, the more we use this world, the more we are connected to this world, the more we need this world, and the more we want to be in this world. Like we're just like, the world is taking us more and more and more, not less and less. So it's different than what we think, because usually a person can think, okay, a little kid has very strong desire, he can't control himself. But as he grows older, he can learn more and he can control himself more. He can become a rabbi. And then all his desires are going to get weaker and weaker. And he can, he can be a good Jew. And because the Torah gets stronger as he grows. But it's not true. Okay, the more we live in this world, the more we're connected to this world, the more all these drives and impulses get stronger, and the more excitement to those desires grow. Okay, everything, our connection to the world grows. Okay, it's very important to know that. There's a cute joke about I think it was in a yeshiva, whatever, in a yeshiva, and there was let's say it's the first week of yeshiva, and one day they serve meat, and you have those kids that are all excited to eat meat, and this kid, what's the big deal? Meat. So who really is more addicted to meat? The one that's all excited, or the one that's like, it's no big deal? The one that says no big deal, because the one that says it's not a big deal, it's because he has it all the time. If there wouldn't be meat, he would go crazy. And if there wouldn't be meat, the other one that got excited that never has this type of meat, he would be like, okay, I can live without it. But the more you have it, the more it becomes something normal, and the more you need more of it. So you got the idea, hopefully. So let's look at this in the Tanya, of how the Alter Rebbe is going to tell the Beinoni, be in your eyes like a Rasha. And he's going to say that the bad inclination, the evil inclination, is as its full intensity the whole life. Okay, even if a Beinoni manages to not show it on the outside, he restrains it. Okay, he can control it in his behavior, but it's the voice of the evil inclination is very, very loud, and that's why he's called Rasha. Inside, we are Rasha. Like a Beinoni inside, there's two loud voices, just like by the Rasha, except by the Rasha, the evil inclination wins. By us, no, it doesn't win. By the Beinoni, it never wins. And he's going to tell us also that the animal soul gets stronger and stronger over the years. So look at it in the words of the Tanya. Yet, inasmuch as the evil in the left part of the Benoni's heart is in its native strength, craving after all the pleasures of the world, and is neither so minute as to be nullified before the good of the divine soul, as in the case with the tzaddik, nor has it been displaced from its position to any degree, but merely lacks authority and power to become diffused thought throughout the limbs of the body, to cause them to do, speak, or think evil, nor is the evil lack of ability attributable to the Benoni's efforts for his evil, like that of a Rasha, retains its native strength to pervade his entire body. Rather, the evil is powerless merely. So he just described the Benoni, okay? He has the evil inclination inside, but on the outside, he's overcoming it because of the Holy One, blessed be he, who stands at the right hand of the poor man, helping him and irradiating his divine soul, so that it may be able to prevail over the evil. Hashem helps him. Therefore, the Benoni is described as being ke Rasha, like a Rasha, but not actually a Rasha. As in the statements of our sages, even if the whole world tells you that you're a tzaddik, be in your own eyes like a Rasha. He should not regard himself as an actual Rasha, for the Mishnah admonishes, be not wicked in your own estimation. Rather, one should consider oneself a Benoni, and should not accept the world's opinion, which would have him believe that the evil is him, that has been nullified by the good. Like, don't think that because everybody's telling you you're a tzaddik, it means that you don't have evil inside of you. No. Inside of you, for this is the level, that's the level of a tzaddik. If the evil is nullified, if there's no evil, you're a tzaddik. But we're not a tzaddik, we're a Benoni. Instead, he should take the view that the essence and core of the evil is in its full native strength and might in the left part of his heart. You need to be aware that there's a very strong evil inclination, not having vanished or departed from him at all. It didn't leave. It's there. On the contrary, with the passage of time, the evil has gained strength because he utilized it, the animal soul, considerably in eating and drinking and in other mundane pursuits. Okay? So because we're using this animal soul constantly and we're using all this stuff in this world, this animal soul grows. This Yetzer Hara is actually getting louder. Okay, so beware. Very, very, like, we have to be very alert and know that we have a Yetzer Hara. That's the message of saying, be in your own eyes like a Rasha. Yeah.
But I don't get how the one who wanted, the one who didn't want to meet someone.
Yeah, I didn't get it. If you have something all the time, do you have a coffee every morning?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
She still wants it.
Now I'm telling you, no more coffee. Tomorrow I'm taking away your machine. You're gonna go crazy because you need it and you're used to it. So your needs don't diminish, they grow. Your physical needs, they're only getting stronger and stronger.
So that one.
The more you're addicted to your coffee, the more you need it.
Right.
So the one who said it's not a big deal to have meat, it's because he has it all the time. If there wouldn't be meat on the table, he would be like, where's the meat? He would be like, where's my coffee?
But if I have my coffee.
You need a better coffee. It's gonna, don't worry, the
Right.
need is gonna grow. That's my point, okay? The coffee gets better and better. And it needs to be that type and this type and
Yeah.
and then you can't get rid of it on Shabbat. Remember we spoke about when we learned about Shabbat, it was like you need a coffee that you grind on the spot and you can't do that on Shabbat. So we had like crazy discussions. I made you into a tea drinker? Oh, okay. Okay, tea is good.
There was
Tea is
a
good.
movie,
Yeah.
it's American movie, but with Russian, maybe 25 years ago. It goes most on the Hudson. It's about the Russian circus people coming to America. And the Russian guy who goes to the supermarket and he asking someone, where's the coffee? And the person who works, he said, this is the aisle for coffee. So he goes through the aisle of coffee. By the end of the aisle, he collapsed because he couldn't believe it. So many kinds of
So many
coffee.
types. It's a whole world, but the more you enter it, the more it grows. It doesn't, physical stuff and the Yetzer Hara, it doesn't get smaller.
So when something's new to you, or those people who never had meat before, why on the
They're
the
excited.
surface they seem excited.
They're excited, but they would be able to live without it. That's my point. It looks on the outside they're excited, but okay. So we're gonna summarize and then we're gonna try and take away and understand how to make decisions and everything. So we learned today that by the Beinoni, we have two strong impulses, two strong drives, and they're like two judges. Okay, they're not kings, they're judges because they're only giving an opinion. The Yetzer Hara brings desires and impulses from the heart, okay, to the brain and gives his opinion. And then he says to the brain, I feel like it, I want to do it. But then the second judge comes and says, here's the right thing to do. This is not allowed. Hashem doesn't want you to do this. And then Hashem is going to help. We have this third that will help the right side to determine and rule over the Yetzer Hara. Hashem is the third to determine and to help us. And that's why the person is given an oath before birth that even if everybody tells you you're a tzaddik, because everybody only sees the outside, they don't see the inside, right? You need to value yourself and you need to look at yourself like a Rasha, meaning that even if everybody sees only your behavior on the outside, right? But the truth, we need to remember what we look like inside of us. Inside of us, there's a negative drive, there's impulses, like the same strong and the same strong powers to do evil, just like by the Rasha. Okay, and we have to fight them constantly. We need to be on guard constantly. We need to be aware of it constantly. Even if we think I'm good, I'm doing a lot of nice things, be aware there's a very strong evil inclination inside of you. And this is the Beinoni. A Beinoni is when the behavior is like a tzaddik, but in the inside, the drives are like by a Rasha. Okay, so the Baal Shem Tov tells us. So we're going to try and understand how to walk out with making good decisions in every situation. Baal Shem Tov tells us that when there's a conflict inside of us, okay, we have to put our personal interest aside and do what Hashem wants. That's on a very simple level, okay? Like, of course, listen to your godly soul. Now, sometimes it gets very, very hard. So I'm gonna give you a few points to help us make the right decision every single time. So we need to be aware that sometimes the choice in front of us is going to be what is right versus what is convenient. Okay, the animal soul is the voice that's going to tell you what's more convenient, what do you feel like, what's more comfortable. Okay, the godly soul is going to tell you what is necessary to do right now, what is needed to do right now. And for that, I want to tell you that there was a journalist that asked the Rebbe, why you never went to Eretz Yisrael, why you never went to Israel. And what did the Rebbe say? The answer, he said a sentence. The answer is something for us, like a lesson for life. It's not just about the Rebbe himself, it's a lesson for us. He says, a straight person, like a person that's doing what's like a straight person is meant to live in a place where he's gonna act, where something's gonna come out of it. You live in a place where there's something for you to do, where there's something that there's a result that comes out of it. Yes.
So basically, you shouldn't let yourself to go the easy way, find a way to challenge yourself.
No, it's not challenging yourself. If you have in front of you a choice, something that's easy or something that's necessary to be done, this lady needs to be helped. It's not convenient. It's at night. I'm tired. Like, it's not convenient, but it needs to be done. Something needs to be done over here. You do it.
Out of the way.
Or out of the way. It's not convenient. It's not comfortable. It's going to be there's going to be a cost of money or a cost of effort, of time. But if there's something that needs to be done, do it. Don't just like stay back and say right now, sorry. I mean, I'm not saying always, okay? I'm not, this is not covering every dilemma. Sometimes sometimes we have to make decisions of saying no, okay, there's a lot behind it, like we can have a whole conversation about it. But this is one interesting point that I want to bring out, that it's important that sometimes when you have a dilemma, think, is it about convenience or is it about what's necessary to be done? Like the Rebbe didn't go to Israel because he had so much work to do in America. You understand? And like in Israel, it wasn't necessary. He wouldn't do what he did the way he was in America. So that's the reason he gave him. Second punchline, like second idea, is go according to the code of Jewish law, the Shulchan Aruch. Okay, the Torah, like if you go according to the Torah is what Hashem wants, okay? And the godly soul is what the Torah says, right? Like the right way is the Torah, is what Hashem wants, it's the godly soul, okay? So if we were not sure to do this or not, look in the book, okay? Check what the Torah has to say. Okay, that's an easy one. Now it comes a very, very important one, that if you haven't done this until now, this is the time. So sometimes we really don't know where the voices are coming from. It's very confusing, very unclear. I'll give you like a personal example. If I needed to stop teaching, so the school needs me as a teacher, but my family needs me as a mother, my community needs me as a rabbit and whatever. Like I was pulled between a lot of sides. They all sound great, and for selfish reason, there's some that are better than others, etc. What is the right thing to do? How do you make such decisions? Like sometimes it's really not simple. Like to stop teaching, like when I stopped teaching, I'm saying it's not always a simple decision. Yeah.
There is a saying that only one right thing. There is always. We all have that feeling inside that that's what you need to do.
Be careful, because if you're basically saying that you have an intuition inside, there's a voice inside that you know. That's what you're basically saying.
When you have a decision, like you said, for example, to choose between community.
Yeah, but it's not always good to listen to yourself, because we're very biased. We are biased to ourselves. We are biased to my selfish drive. To be very careful. That's where the Yetzer Hara pops. Be very careful. Sorry. Anyways, what do you a third idea what we need to do? No, because inside of us, what is when it's confusing, we don't know what's the right thing to do. Like we don't know. Both look right, but there must be one of them that's coming from the selfish side, or both of them come from the selfish side. I don't know. Not always it's very crystal clear. Okay, not always it's crystal clear. So the Mishnah tells us, "Aseh lecha rav." Appoint yourself a Rav, appoint yourself a Mashpia, okay? It can be a rabbi that you talk to, or a Mashpia is the idea of having any person that you look up to. That's a level a little bit higher than you, and you can ask them what they think. People that have more experience in their life about certain things, and we talk to them, and they're not biased. They're not inside of you making the decision. They're listening at the situation. They're listening at the situation from the outside, and they can help you see from the outside. You tell them, "I want to know what you think Hashem would want me to do." Okay, and they will have advice for you of what's and will guide you to do the right thing. Not always we can make the decisions ourselves. It's very important to know that sometimes we need to ask, and it's okay, and we should ask a Rav, we should ask somebody, we should discuss it with an outsider that is less biased than ourselves. Okay, that's a very important point. Also, now comes the very very be aware one, is that sometimes you have a very positive initially, you want to do something great, and then a minute later there's going to be a conflicting thought that's going to tell you don't do it. Like you want to do something good, and right away there's this voice saying, that's going to be too much, that's going to be too hard, it's going to take your whole life away, like everybody's going to, So the rule is that everything that comes to disturb something good that you want to do is the Yetzer Hara. It's that voice that's coming to disturb, like the godly soul made the decision to do something very good, and the Yetzer Hara is going to for sure pop in. He's not going to be happy over there. He's going to be loud and clear and say, why do you do this? Stop it. And he's going to give you very smart excuses. He's not, the Yetzer Hara, I'm going to show you soon an unbelievable letter. The Yetzer Hara is very sneaky, very smart. He's going to give you very good excuses to not do this good thing. So when it's a second thought, like, when you have a good thing, for sure it's a good thing to do, and those second thought tells you, that don't do it, beware, it's probably the Yetzer Hara. Okay, it's a new thought that's telling you stop it. For example, you weren't learning for a very long time, you didn't come to classes for a very long time, and now you decide you need to start learning. And exactly as you're ready to leave your house to go to a class, you realize your house is way too messy. Like your house is not going to be under control if you go to this class. Okay, there's always going to be reasons to not, to stop you from doing something good. When you finally make the good decision, the Yetzer Hara is going to be there. So, so be very aware of this Yetzer Hara, and I'm going to show you an unbelievable letter. It's another Hayom Yom. Of the Rebbe quoting the fifth Chabad Rebbe. on how sneaky the Yetzer Hara is. It's really beautiful. No, it's this one. Okay, what? Oh, yeah, I shared it. Did I share it?
Maybe share the PDF.
No, it's shared. It says stop share. No, I'm sharing. It's screen sharing. No, I'm sharing.
Oh,
Yeah. In reply to a Yechidut query in the winter of 5635, my grandfather said to my father, the Yetzer Hara, the evil impulse, is called animal soul, not because it is necessarily a brute animal. Like the reason the animal soul is called animal, it's not because it's an animal. It's because it can be very smart, like a fox. At times, it may be a fox, the most cunning of beasts, and great wisdom is needed to perceive its machinations. At other times, it may clothe itself in the garb of earnest, straightforward, humble tzaddik, possessing fine traits of character. Like this Yetzer Hara can dress up like a tzaddik, okay? He's very smart. He knows how to fool you. The animal soul manifests itself in each person according to his individual character. One person may suddenly experience a powerful longing to study Chassidut or to meditate deeply on some Hasidic concept. The truth is, however, that this is nothing more than the Yetzer Hara's counsel and the animal soul's machination to prevent him from engaging in the avodah of davening or a similar activity. Like sometimes it's literally going to tell you to study instead of praying. Like it's very, very, very sneaky. Take this as a general principle and remember it always. Any matter that is effective towards or actually leads to an active avodah and is confronted with opposition of any sort, even the most noble, that opposition is the shaming of the animal soul. My father concluded, watch, until then I had not known that there can be a pious animal soul, let alone a Hasidic animal soul. So the animal soul can dress himself as a tzaddik, he can dress himself as a Hasid, he can dress himself like with very good, he's going to tell you study Hasidut instead of praying. But no, praying avodah is number one. That's what the Rebbe is telling us here. But it's really to show you how unbelievable this animal soul is, and we all have it inside of us, and he's not gonna escape us. We were promised at birth that he's gonna be with us forever. So no, this is the message of today. Like beware, and when you make a decision and when you have a dilemma, realize that there's a very strong possibility that that one of the voices is coming from the animal soul. And our job is to constantly work on it and be aware of it. And of course, on the outside, our actions, thoughts, and speech should always be like a tzaddik. Okay, so next week, we're going to talk further on this topic because we're continuing this chapter and we're going to talk about rabbis. What's happening with the Yetzer Hara by the rabbis, by very religious people? What's going on in those people? Okay, I'm going to stop here.